Hello and welcome back to Paranormal NL Podcast, located in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. That's PNL Podcast for short. I'm your host and founder, Jen Nosworthy. Thank you for tuning in to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 FM on that Gulf. For tonight's Bigfoot Biological and Woo special on UPRN segment number 45. I've got a special guest tonight waiting backstage from Ohio, USA, who I'll bring on shortly. Now it's time to grab your favorite cold one, a few munchies, and get ready for the show tonight. Paranormal NL Podcast is sponsored by the Bog Team. It's a boots on the ground Bog Team doing historical paranormal investigations in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. Follow PNL Podcast and the Bog Team on their link tree, Paranormal NL Podcast. Smash those subscribe buttons. All Bog Team music heard in the intro and the exit are available for download on all social media and streaming music platforms. Tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on UPRN for PNL Podcast with a live chat watch party for subscribers. PNL Podcast believes in supporting international paranormal networking and highlighting global paranormal people, places, and things. Now, let's get on with the show. Tonight, I have on with me, we've got Miss Julia Sims. Julia.
Hi, Jen.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
How is Ohio?
So far, so good. It's my first time really spending any time here.
Yes, because you're a Floridian, correct?
Yeah. So I'm up here picking up a trailer. So I've gone from Florida to North Carolina. Now I'm in Ohio to get the camper so I can travel around and do more research. And then I'm going to go back to North Carolina for a while, research around there, do some filming, see what creepy things I can get into, and then who knows from there.
So did you see any Bigfoot along the way?
I'm always hearing something, that's for sure.
Right. So before we dig in, let's tell folks a little bit around the world who you are, Julia Sims. We're going to talk a little bit about Bigfoot Biological and Woo, but I'll let you kind of tell a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Julia Sims. I am from Sarasota, Florida. I got into Bigfoot research and paranormal research from an experience that I had when I was about 13 years old that I believe to be an alien encounter, possibly an abduction. But from that encounter led into, seems like it linked up with a lot of other paranormal experiences that other people have. And now here I am looking at all kinds of different things out there, especially Bigfoot though.
Yes. Now, you had mentioned it all started off when you were younger. Did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's kind of a long story, but so when I was about 13, I had spent the night at my best friend's house with another one of our friends. I'm still very close with these girls to this day, but I woke up after we'd had a sleepover and I woke up naked in the middle of her floor, curled up in a ball. And so when they woke up, they had said, "What are you doing down there?" And I didn't know. So we kind of laughed it off, we're kids. But when I stood up, they said, "What's that on your back?" And at the base of my spine, there was a circle about yay big, I would say, that was one big circle in the middle with a diagonal slash through it. And I want to say it was 6 or 7 little symbols around it. It wasn't raised. It didn't hurt. It didn't itch. If they hadn't noticed it, I may not have ever even seen it. Yeah. So the day went on. We didn't think too much of it. We thought maybe I just slept on something. It left an imprint. Who knows? We went to a movie with some friends of ours and I started getting really sick. And about an hour after that, I got so sick. I just told them we have to go home. I don't know if I've got the flu or what's going on. But when we got back to Caitlin's house, this happened at Veronica's, and then we went back to Caitlin's, I started getting a lot sicker. I was starting to sort of lose consciousness a little bit, almost to the point of blacking out. She'd called her coven leader. She's a Gardnerian Wiccan, and asked her because we didn't know who else to really turn to. Her parents obviously didn't know anything about that, and they laughed it off. They thought that it was a prank or something like that. So they did a form of mirror magic, I guess it was. I don't know too much about Gardnerian Wiccans, but what had happened is after they had done that, I threw up into this bucket these sort of black, sludgy, ball-looking things.
Oh,
And
God.
I passed out completely. And when I woke up, they said that it basically disappeared in a matter of minutes. Nothing ever happened since then. It's never come back, as far as I know, but I do still check occasionally. But to me, what that symbol looked like was a crop circle.
A crop circle.
That's what it looked like to me. I mean, it was perfectly formed. You couldn't have drawn something that perfect by hand. There would have been no way to do that. But that's what it looked like to me. So I started getting into ufology and looking into that. And then I noticed a lot of similarities between people who have UFO or alien encounters and Bigfoot encounters. So then I got into researching Bigfoot. And now what I'm doing is trying to find the links between all of these woo similarities, I guess.
Yeah, because, when people talk about Bigfoot, there's always the biological camp and the woo camp. Do you want to explain to the listeners who don't understand that what that is?
Yep. So the biological people think that Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature. It's just an animal that's out in the woods that we just haven't discovered yet. I think we've gone as far as we can in that department. I think there's way too much evidence and way too many people that have reported seeing glowing orbs in the forest along with it. People that have reported missing chunks of time. There's just too much out there to think that it's just a biological creature, in my opinion. But I'm not saying I'm right. No one can actually say they're right because we don't know for sure. But that's what we're out there trying to figure out.
Well, I always think about, when people see Bigfoot, a lot of times they see the orbs and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever experienced that?
I've never seen necessarily an orb, but one of the best sightings that I've ever seen with lights is I was out with my buddy Chris D'Angelo. Him and I are part of Creature Man Investigations down in Florida with Stevie Strings.
Shout out to Stevie Strings. Yeah, he was on the show, season 2, episode 101.
Yeah, that's my boy.
So we got to give a shout out to Brian since we're doing a shout out. Brian was the one who connected us. Sir Bryan Bowden from Third Eye Live, and he was on season 2, episode 6, season 2, episode 63, and he was on season 3, episode 4. So shout out to Brian Bowden.
Hi, Brian. Thanks, man.
So we were talking about the UFOs and what you thought about the orb situation.
So the one time that I'd seen the lights out there, it was me and Chris from the team, and we were walking in Florida through a very swampy area. It's not a lake necessarily. It's just about knee-high, murky, gross swamp water. We were researching in an area where you can't camp around there. That's all just hiking. There obviously couldn't be a boat out there. We were walking. I saw what looked like a blue flash. So we stopped for a minute and he didn't see it at first. And I was like, all right. So we kept going. And then I saw it again. And then we stopped and we waited for a few minutes. And then it happened again and he saw it. And not long after that happened, we kept walking away from it. And we heard this roar that was so loud that, like, when a car that has a really deep, loud bass to it will just rattle your chest cavity. Right. It was so loud that it felt like that.
It's like infrasound.
Right. Yeah.
Like you could feel it like at a rock concert or something.
Yeah.
Going through your body.
Yes, but we could audibly hear it as well. So, that's the area that we get constant activity from as far as Bigfoot goes. So that was, I would say that there's something more to that. If it was just biological, then that wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have seen the lights along with it. What I kind of think happens is that these different cryptids are interdimensional.
Yes, I was just going to ask you about your thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. I think that maybe in order for them to switch between whatever realm they're into the dimension that we're in, that it takes so much energy. It's almost like a portal that opens. And that's why people report seeing these things with aliens, with Bigfoot, with Mothman, any ghosts, any of those.
That would make a whole lot of sense. I believe that there is interdimensional worlds too, and there could be even different parallel universes. Who knows?
Mhm.
And because there's so much stuff going on with climate change, and we're losing a lot of the electromagnetism, shall we say, of the Earth. I think that's kind of changing some of the atmospheric things, but also allowing more stuff to come in. Like we can see the aurora borealis a lot more now versus
Mhm.
before we couldn't. So I
Yep.
mean, it is changing space and time.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible, and this is why the more people I think that are willing to expand their research toolbox, the better. Because
Well,
there's
let's
just
talk a little bit more about what happened to you. I mean, there was a lot of girls there who witnessed that, right? Tell
Mhm.
me more about like what happened,
So the
or
other two.
witnesses. Like what did they think about it?
Well, the funny thing is that Veronica remembers this crystal clear to this day. And if you ask Caitlin about it, she almost remembers nothing.
Okay.
So Veronica and I remember the most out of it. I was kind of in and out of consciousness towards the end of this experience, but Veronica was completely conscious, and so was Caitlin. But it's almost like she doesn't remember big chunks of it. I mean, granted, this was a long time ago, but even years ago, if you asked her about it, she just doesn't remember much. So I wonder if all three of us were a part of that happening, and maybe Caitlin, for some reason, can't remember all of it, and Veronica doesn't remember any of the experience, or why I was the only one that ended up with this strange, we call it a branding. I don't know what you would call it exactly, but I don't know, it almost kind of looked like a radiation burn, but it didn't hurt. So if anyone out there has anything similar that's happened to them, I'd love to hear about it.
Well, there's an awful lot of people now that you mentioned that, and we're on that topic. I'm gonna pull up a different screen here and share that with y'all. And as I'm sharing that, I'm gonna give. Let me just find it real quick. I'm gonna give a shout out. Pull this up right quick to the gentleman who owns this, and he was on the show, and it's called Granite Sky Services, and this one here is belonged by a gentleman named Mike Stevens. And Mike is an experiencer from New Hampshire in the USA. And he actually had an entire book written about him called Granite Skies. And it was written by Nomar Slavic from Maine, an author. And it's a true story. I had Mike on season 2, episode 33. So he has graniteskies.org. And what he does is this place is for abduction and support services. And you see here how it says it's about people and not proof. So, everybody who's an experiencer believes, hey, like, why should I have to prove it? Why should I have to find out about the witnesses and this and that? Like, why can't people take my word for it? So this is a support group for them. It's about people, not the proof. So there's lots of stuff in here about what they do. Here he is here. He's the founder. He does all kinds of speaking all over the place. And this is the book that was written about him, Granite Skies. And I think it's really worth checking out, granitesky.org. So I just wanted to share that with a lot of people who are watching, that you're not the only one.
Yeah, that's a really useful tool. I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know when you said, if there's anybody out there, let me know. But in the comments, I mean, yeah, make a comment. Let us know. Chime in. This is a live. If you're on the live chat watch party, tell us, like, what happened to you? Did you have problems with people not believing you, or problems understanding what happened? Or like, how did this affect you in your life? And is this why, Julia, you are looking into more of the woo side of the Bigfoot?
Well, I haven't really gone super public about any of this up until about the last year. Only the people that were really close to me knew about it, but I've just reached a point to where I just don't care anymore. I mean, that's part of it. But then also there's so much disclosure, small bits that are coming out more and more
Yes.
recently, that it doesn't seem like that crazy of an idea.
I 100% agree. You talked about disclosure. Is there anything that you want to mention about disclosure? Have you been following any of it, or?
Just some of the more major points on it. The Tic Tac incident, I think, was one of the largest things that's happened in a very long time, and I think that's the tip of the iceberg, and that there's going to be a lot more to come.
Yes, there is going to be a lot more. I have had a lot of different UFO folks on the show, whether it be ranging from, like, for example, MUFON. I've had several different people on. For example, Steve Feremi is the MUFON New England. He was on season 2, 109. That's in Massachusetts. And I also had a gentleman who's coming on soon. He's going to be on segment 46, Ruben Uriarte and Noe Torres. And they talk about, have you ever heard about Mexico's Roswell, or the other Roswell?
No, I haven't. Tell me.
Yeah, there's like a whole other can of worms. And he's with MUFON in another area, a completely different area down in the assistant state director of MUFON encounters. He's with, and he deals with a couple different places like Mexico, and also I want to say, is it Cuba? I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I did his episode, but I mean, you're not alone. I've had Steve. Dina Louise, she came on and she talked a little bit about, disclosure. I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Goodall. He's military. He talks a lot about all the different planes and stuff that could be what's flying around.
Yeah.
And then Nancy Thames, she's come on and talked about disclosure. Tony Rodriguez, and Brian does a lot of CE5 stuff, and I
just started getting into that.
Viewer. Yeah, and Tony is a remote viewer too, Tony Rodriguez. So, Alienate UK. I mean, I can just keep naming them on and on and on. But I mean, you're not alone. And I think I mentioned on Brian's show that for the females in particular, like yourself, I want to point out Karen Wilkinson from Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. If you haven't read her book or interviewed her, she's on season 2, episode 38, where it is just next level female stuff going on. Right.
I have a kind of a theory on that. I mean, this isn't, an original thought or anything, but I do strongly stand behind this. It seems like females, especially around that age when we start to become fertile, is when these things happen. It's
Yes.
almost like as soon as we're able to produce or reproduce in general, that they are interested in us. And I think it's for reproductive reasons.
Yeah. I mean, I completely believe that too. That would definitely make complete sense.
Yeah, there's
And I was going to mention about, I think you had said off air that you're also working on something new. Unify the Woo. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what I'm doing with that is, like I said, I think that there are connections between all these different cryptid and paranormal experiences because there's so many similarities. So what I'd like to do is explore that a little bit further. I'm going to be traveling around, going from place to place, talking to people, going to the areas that these things happened, researching the area and those experiences and finding those similarities and exploring that further.
Yeah, because there's a lot of woo out there, isn't it?
There's a lot of woo out there, and that's my jam.
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't like to mix the biological and the woo, though.
Well, I know they don't, but I don't care. This is for me. And, there's a lot of other people that believe in this sort of stuff too. And, I don't think anybody, no matter what you believe, nobody should be naysaying what anyone else is doing. Because again, nobody can prove 100% one way or the other. So let's expand what we're researching. Let's expand these ideas, because just in my opinion, and I'm not insulting anybody or anything like that, I think we've exhausted the biological side. This has been going on for how many decades now, and it's just the same stuff. You got the footprints, you got the recordings of the sounds, but what about all the other stuff that gets ignored? Let's look a little bit further into that.
Yeah, I guess while we're talking, should we give a shout out to the gentleman who passed away?
Oh, yeah, Jeff Meldrum. He passed away today, didn't he?
Yeah. So we're so sorry to hear about that. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, so sorry for his family and all the Bigfooters out there. But I mean, we were talking about Bigfoot all over the world. It's the hairy man, it's Sasquatch. She's all over the world, right? And down in your neck of the woods when you lived in Florida, skunk ape, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And Stevie looked into a lot of that.
Yeah, and that's how I met Stevie, was through that,
Yeah.
down
And
there
if
in the
you're
swamps.
shout out Stevie again. He's with the Creature Man and Best Dudes LLC. And if you're looking for him, you can find him on Stevie's Playhouse and Best Dude Films.
He's good at what he does, for sure.
Is there anything that sticks out in your mind when you were investigating with them?
Yeah, so the last investigation that I did with him, we were sleeping in, separate tents. He's probably, I want to say 50 feet away in his tent, and I'm over here. And it was about 3:00 in the morning when I tapped out, because when I go out on investigations with them, I mean, we're walking 10 to 15 miles in a night, easy.
Yeah.
So I tap out around 3 a.m. I said, I'm going to bed. And Stevie and Chris went back out again. I don't know how they find the energy at this point. But the next morning, Chris had come over to my tent and he goes, come check this out. And there was a pile of pine cones sitting outside of my tent, like towards the back of it. And some of them looked like they were fresh, like they were pulled off of a tree. Some of them looked like they'd been sitting in the dirt and they had, pine needles stuck in them and they had been half decomposed, but they were all in one spot in a nice little pile. So it's almost like something left that there as a gift, maybe. There was another woman her name is Carol, who was with us also. And the next time they went out and investigated, the same thing happened to her. So that area that we go out in Mayaca, there's something special going on there for sure.
Interesting. You never know what you're going to find when you go out Bigfooting.
Yeah, it's part of the fun.
Right? So when are you going to start up, or when are you thinking about starting up your woo stuff? Is this going to be exclusively TikTok, or where would people look?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record everything. I'm going to edit it down, and then I'm going to release it on Instagram and TikTok. And then I'll, obviously it's going to leak over into Facebook. Everything does, but
right.
I'll start doing that. But like I said, right now I'm in Ohio, though. I'm picking up the trailer because that's what I'm going to be traveling in, and wherever that takes me. And then I'm going to start North Carolina. I'll be there for a couple of months, and then we'll see where I go from there.
What kind of content are you going to put on there? Is it going to be like people talking, or kind of just digital?
Well, as I'm traveling, I'm going to be hiking through these areas, so it'll be clips of wherever I am. It depends on who, if I end up talking to someone, if they're willing to be a part of it and I can interview them, then I'll do that. And then what I'm going to do is, in that area, if I find similarities between different experiences that people have that isn't just in one category, I'm going to show how they're related. So, if someone has electromagnetic interference with their electronics and they were doing a ghost hunt, but then someone over here who was doing UFO research had the exact same thing happen, I'm going to go, isn't that strange how it happens here and it happens here? And then I'd also like to provide some scientific reasons as to why that could happen. But, we're going to dive into all that kind of stuff. And, it'll be maximum 5-minute little short episodes each. It's not going to be a long thing, just little clips here and there, all the information, links to where you can find these places that I'm going. So it'll be interesting. Okay. It'll be fun. I'm going to play with it.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. But now, I guess back to, how did that really mess you up? I guess, should we say, that would mess me up if I had something like that happen. Have you ever thought about it, or does anybody else in your family have anything like that happen to them? Because a lot of times when you talk to folks, they're a lot of people in their family have had similar things happen to them.
Yep. My mother and my Aunt Clary both had experiences, especially my Aunt Clary. She had one when she was delivering newspapers in Manatee County in Florida. And I think this was the 60s when this happened to her. It was early in the morning, somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m. And she said that she saw what looked like a craft or something come down behind her car and follow her for a while. And she said next thing she knew, she was driving really slow down the road. And she's like, it looked like an hour had passed and it seemed like nothing. So
Wow.
I think there's also something to there being some generational, not a curse, but some generational patterns with that.
But, it makes you wonder, like, what causes all this stuff? I know we gave some shout outs earlier. I have to throw this one up. There's Brent Thomas up there with a few faces who we both know. George,
Yep.
George and George.
The OGs.
But a lot of people, watch that show. And first when it came out, they were like, oh, no, they don't believe that. But look at what's going on now. I mean, with all the disclosure and everything, I bet people are going back and rewatching some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And just trying to figure it out, like WTF is going on.
Yeah, exactly. And not that long ago, we thought that the sun revolved around the earth, and look how many people were wrong about that too. So
that's right.
We're just going to keep finding things out. We're not as smart as we think we are.
Well, there's so much ancient history. It's crazy. And I got to give a shout out to these folks, the Island of Misfit Toys. These are a lot of Bigfooters here. I've got to give a shout out to Tex Wesson. This is a group of different folks, podcasters and stuff. I just put Brent up, Paranormal Portal. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, he's coming on the show. There's Blondes and Booze. There's Danny Cho, and there's a whole bunch of others who I didn't mention, like Ron Murphy. And, I got to give a shout out to everybody. And it's so hard to do it because there's so many different people. It's like, who do you give shout outs to and who you don't? But I have to give shout outs to them because there's a conference coming up in September, the Crossing Realms conference. And a lot of people are going to that. I don't know if you've heard anything about it or.
I have been doing nothing but traveling for the last 2 weeks. So I've kind of been in this bubble of packing and moving and camping and hotels and highways. But once I settle down, I'll get back involved.
Yeah, I'll throw it up here on the screen because it's actually coming up pretty soon. Your show is September 16th and Crossing Realms is September 19th and 20th. And it's got the biological and the woo. And a lot of the guest speakers are actually some of the folks who we just talked about, like our Sir Bryan Bowden. He's going to be there.
Perfect.
And a lot of the other folks who we mentioned are going to be there too. So check it out if you're around those areas.
Beautiful.
Woohoo. There's so many conferences. How do you choose which ones to go to, though?
I know it. I just base it on location, what's closest for the time being. But
I know, right? There's like so many different ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to wonder, though, like out of all this, the Bigfoot and the biological, I know, which one do you kind of lean more towards? I know the woo, right?
Definitely. I mean, I think at times it can be biological if it's got the energy maybe, or, maybe it picks and chooses when it feels like doing that. I mean, how else do you explain to people who say that they saw it vanish right in front of their eyes? And sometimes people say that they saw it change into a different creature altogether. Or you've heard the people that say that it almost has, like a cloaking, like the Predator to it. It's almost like you're looking through saran wrap. That doesn't sound very biological to me. And all those people can't be lying. So,
but you know what? That could be biological because look at what the octopus does.
It could be.
Or you could be going in a portal, right?
Or it could be the portal, and there's the woo again.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Maybe the octopus is going through a portal.
Maybe the octopus is woo. Maybe
the octopus woo.
Well, he's got like how many different hearts and brains, and he's one weird creature.
Seems pretty alien to me.
I agree. Now, when it comes to like different aliens and things like that, have you researched about like what happened to you? Which type of thing may have caused that? Or
So, as far as I've gone into the research with that, with my particular encounter, is I had found out that there actually used to be a UFO cult in Sarasota, Florida years ago.
a cult?
And yeah,
I've never heard of that.
there
Okay.
was a full-on cult that was in Sarasota many, many years ago. And when it disbanded, they left a lot of literature in the used bookstores in South Sarasota. And I was told to go there because I might be able to find something. And I did. I found some real weird books down there. Sure, they're all gone by now. But so on top of that being strange, I had heard an interview on, it was Sasquatch Chronicles, actually, of all of all podcasts. It was a guy who was from that area who had a similar experience, but he was like a chronic illness that was happening to him. So that was out of the same town as well. And then I found this woman on an online forum who lived one town over in Mayaca. And she was an adult when this happened to her, but her story was almost identical to mine. But she went to a doctor, and the only thing the doctor told her is that, well, to me, it looks like a radiation burn, but it doesn't act like one. So when I tried to email her and try to find out whatever information I could, the email address no longer existed. So I was never able to talk to her.
Wow.
Yeah. I did go, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you went where?
I did go to a hypnotherapist when I was in my early 20s to try to get a little more information, but I didn't want to go to, a typical hypnotherapist for fear of being thrown in the loony bin at the time. So there was a woman who did past life regressions who came pretty highly recommended. And what she would do is she would put people under to try to remember past lives. So I thought if she can handle that, she might be able to handle trying to pull up memories from the night that this happened to me. And she did. She was wonderful. I guess I don't go under hypnosis very easily, but I did slip into it for a little bit. And I guess what I told her is that in the middle of the night, I got up and went through the sliding glass door to the backyard where there was a bright light, and I walked towards it. And that's all I said. So take that for what you will, but how's that for woo?
Yeah, that is definitely woo. We were talking a little bit before about how Bigfoot could be woo, but there's other things like we haven't discussed, like Dogman. A lot of people say that's like almost like a vampire or kind of demonic, shall we say, some kind of weird entity. Who knows where that comes from?
I haven't heard anyone with a positive Dogman story. Sometimes you get people with Bigfoot stories they say, oh, they were sweet creatures and, they just want peace and they wanted to be friends. And the same thing happens with aliens. Sometimes people say that they're abducted and they took them up to the ship and, they told me what humanity needs to progress from here and the things that we have to stop doing. I've never heard anyone say that about Dogman. It's always like this thing was trying to kill me and I was terrified for my life. So I don't know what to think about Dogman yet, but I don't think he's a friendly guy.
No, I agree. I haven't talked to one person yet who said anything good about Dogman. It's always been, let's get the F out of here. Yeah, I'm done kind of thing. It's like, nope. But with the lights, like what is going on with the lights? Like, why did that happen?
I think it has something to do with the amount of energy that it takes for it to either materialize or maybe, like I said, maybe it's like a portal that they have to come through. And that's just a product of that accumulation of energy, maybe.
Yeah.
And then I've also heard people say that they think it's a skinwalker, but if you listen to what the Navajos say about that, the Navajos say that skinwalkers can't leave Navajo land. So that wouldn't make any sense if you're seeing one on the east coast of the United States. So what is that? Is it some other shapeshifter? Maybe it's all the same thing, which I kind of think a lot of these creatures have the ability to appear to certain people the way they want.
What you said about leaving the certain parts of the land, maybe they can, but in other parts of the land, there's a lot of different indigenous legends and things like that, like the Wendigo. You know, a lot of other different indigenous legends that who's to say it might be something else, right? That's a
Yeah, but
shapeshifter. Because when we do investigations, I don't know why, but we always get shapeshifter and stuff like that. Especially when we're close to a wooded area or in a wooded area, it'll say stuff like that.
I'm like, again, I'm not ruling out the possibility that maybe all of it's the same thing and it appears to different people in different forms, you know, and like Skinwalker and Wendigo, you know, it's possibly it's the same thing. You know, in some places they call Bigfoot the grass man, some places it's the swamp ape, some places it's Yeti. It's the same thing, maybe just a slightly different race or a different form of it, but basically it's the same thing. So possibly Skinwalkers, shapeshifters, Wendigo is all the same umbrella.
The footprints always disappear, Jules. They try to get there. They get there. It's like, okay, and then bing, it's gone. Like, where the hell did it go? Like,
I think that it goes somewhere else. I think it changes.
Beam it up to Kirk's ship. You know,
right?
Where did it go?
Or it switches dimensions. You know, it's here. It's flesh and blood for a minute, and then for whatever reason, if it wants to disappear, it just up and disappears. Otherwise, I mean, why do we only find 2 or 3 at a time? You know, you never find 20 of them. You find a couple.
True. And so many people have said, when you're walking along, or don't pick up the hitchhiker and always look down at his feet. Is it hooved feet or is it real feet?
You know, maybe it's halfway. I mean, I've heard a couple stories of people saying that they thought they saw a Bigfoot on the side of the road and they blinked and it was a giant wolf, or they blinked and it looked like, you know, it was just light, or it was something else. I mean, maybe they caught it in between changing into something
like
else.
Skinwalker, like they thought there was a dire wolf there, and they even had the skull and matched the actual dire wolf skull with the bone that they found. Like, WTF, like that's mind-blowing, right?
I love that kind of stuff. I want to get in all that. I want to live in that realm. Tell me more.
Woo and biological. You can't get more biological and woo than that.
Yeah.
And what have you been watching the new episodes?
Not in the last couple of weeks. I have done nothing but travel for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's like this big giant sphere on the ranch that goes under and over. It's like a big ball. And
there's always something going on out there. I can't wait for that to get figured out.
And what do you think about like different infrasound and using, like, you know how people use different devices, like, oh, I'm going to mimic a whoop and, you know, see if it responds back to me, or try to use different infrasound to get him to respond. Maybe they're just pissing off whatever it is out there.
Well, and we don't know what those whoops actually mean. You know, for all you know, it's saying there's a threat in the area, get out of here. Or, you know, maybe that's a, you know, like,
or maybe you're swearing at it.
Yeah, you don't know. It's like, I'd be kind of careful. You know, you're speaking a language and you don't know what you're saying exactly. I'd be careful. You know,
exactly right. You don't know what you could be throwing out there at the thing. You could be inviting it in for a dinner, or ringing the dinner bell or something.
Well, you know, and I'm not opposed to using that method to try to draw something in necessarily. But if you look at the people that have these encounters,
that silly picture.
I love that picture. Leave it. So, I mean, 90% of the encounters that people have, it's an accident. They weren't out there looking for these creatures. They weren't looking for Bigfoot. They were minding their own business, camping or on a hike, and it just appeared. You know, so I don't know how much you can call it into existence necessarily. I think it's either an accident or it's allowing you to see it.
Well, have you ever watched some of these shows like Naked and Afraid or whatever? Here they are out in the bush, and it looks like there's hardly any trees or anything around. And then this ginormous elephant comes out of absolutely nowhere, because you'd think you would hear it walking, right? No, they've got this huge feet, but you can't hear them walk away. But if they want to tear the living bejesus out of a tree, well, they're going to do it, and they're strong enough to do it, right? And they can hide really good in the bush. Yeah. Bigfoot do that too, but maybe he's more intelligent than we are. Like maybe
Well, I
he's
would
over
say
there
so.
saying, man, I wish he's probably calling us apes, right?
I mean,
I wish this
honestly,
dumb ape would pick up his McDonald's trash, you know?
I think we're definitely the less intelligent of the two, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite stories that I heard, and it was he was a retired policeman from a really small little farm town. And this woman that was living on this property called the cops, and there's only a handful of police in the whole town, and she's going, there's this creature on my property and it's showing up, it's making noise, it's hitting the side of my house, typical Bigfoot stuff.
Right.
So he went out there, and this man didn't believe any of the paranormal stuff. He was just a good old boy from the backwoods. So he goes out there, he's got his gun, he comes to go talk to her. And he said that he heard this thing talk to him, and he didn't hear it with his ears. He said that it was a mind speak thing, that inside his head.
Yeah, Yowie mind speak. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah. So he said that what it said to him, it was referring to the gun that he had on him. And it said, why do you have that? And he goes, I didn't know what to do. So I said out loud, I use this for my job. I use this to protect people. And he said, clear as day, it said to him back in his head, we don't like those. Leave that in your car. And he said, so from that day on, this man was a total believer, so it can happen in an instant.
When you're investigating the paranormal, a lot of times spirit will communicate with you just like that. Mm-hmm. And, that's something that is completely normal for especially for mediums who got the clairs and stuff like that, who can hear them audibly. But I know we mentioned Yowie Speak. I got to give a shout out to Sarah Bignell from Australia, from Yowie Central. She talks a lot about Yowie Mind Speak, and that's a big thing there. Mm-hmm. So, it's not just here, it's all over the place. So if a spirit can do it, or ET can do it, they say that, our pineal gland, everybody's got one and just need to use it like exercise. It might be dried up, but if you start using it, it might work again, right?
Right. That, and, I'm sure you're really familiar with, how they're getting calcified over from the amount of fluoride in water and the chemicals and the things that we eat, right. So if you spend enough time getting back to cleansing your body and cleansing your mind, that you can open that back up again. Which would be great. I mean, some people just use DMT, but I wouldn't suggest doing that unless you really know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about that on Brian's show. I gotta throw that one up there again. The Misfit toys, but yeah, you gotta watch out what you're using and what you're doing. I mean, there's other techniques. There's there's the mindfulness that everybody talks about, and using that to get to a certain state also. I don't know that that's really a big part of it, is the meditation. Like when you go back in the ancient times, that's what they did. They meditated. They used different sounds. Like infrasound is a thing.
Well, and also that many years ago, they didn't have the kinds of distractions that we have now. I mean, now from the second you open your eyes in the morning until the second you go to bed, there is nothing but distractions around you 24 hours a day.
Noise and lights and everything. Like back then, they didn't have all the noise and lights. They could see all the stars, and they didn't have to deal with all the TV commercials yelling in your face. Right?
Yeah, no matter where you look.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, even if you walk out into the middle of the woods, you go, okay, I'm 20 miles out, I'm safe. You're gonna find a piece of trash laying out there that has an advertisement,
or a sign that says, "Please don't trash."
Yeah. Precisely.
Oh
you get what I'm saying.
I do. So you're going to be traveling again soon. You're going to be in the camper. Do you do much camping, like in the old-fashioned tent?
I've done a lot of that. I've done 100 miles in 5 days through the Guatemalan jungle, sleeping in a hammock.
Oh my God.
I've done a lot of tent camping, but at this point, I think I've kind of had it with that. So I was going to have this, I think it was a 33-foot camper, which once I got here and I looked at it, it's a little bit too much for me to try to haul through the mountains and across the country. So
too much gas. You got to get a mortgage to fill it up, right?
I don't know why. In my head, I was like, that's fine. It'll be roomy. I'll have plenty of space. But, I also can't pull into your average gas station without having to block the road off.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I've done now is I got a 2022 Wolf Pup. It's 21 foot. It's all super modernized. It's got Starlink and the washing machine and all that stuff in it. So that'll make for a much more comfortable traveling experience, but still maneuverable. So I'll sleep in something comfortable and then run around and hike through the woods and do that on the side.
So when you're out hiking in the woods, what's your go-to items to bring when you're Bigfooting or out hiking in the woods?
I'm not a huge fan of having a ton of gear as far as thermals and things like that, which is great if your goal is to get proof and then show it to a bunch of people. But for me, this is a lot more personal, and I think I'm going to yield better results just going with my instinct and being open to it and let it appear. And I think whatever any of these creatures are, they're smart enough to know that you're trying to capture them. And I just don't think they like that. Otherwise, our cameras wouldn't glitch out every time we try to get a shot of them.
I mean, everybody who you talk to who is an experiencer, whether it be with a woo or biological, I mean, you're not going to go, oh, hold on a second, let me get my purse and can you stand over there by the tree and I'll get your picture. You're going to stand there and go, holy F, what's going on? And you're going to be in shock and going, what am I looking at? Yeah. Your brain is going to take a while to process. Then you're going to go into fight or flight, right? Precisely. You're not going to be reaching for your phone.
That's part of the thing too. It's like, if you get the opportunity to see something that amazing, you're not going to go, hang on, Bigfoot, let me just open this app real quick. Can you hold still? Like, you're
in the sunshine and you can't see your phone, right?
Can you move to the right a little bit so I can get a better shot? Like, if I'm out there and I get to experience these things, that's going to be for me, and I'll tell people about it. And hopefully other people who've experienced the same thing, they can share their experiences with me. And I can tell people, if you stay open, if you keep your mind open, if you keep yourself clear, you can have these experiences too, and I just think it's all related. It's all part of the same thing.
Yeah. I think if you were more quiet out in the woods, like we had talked about the noise, I think that makes a big difference. And you're going to get difference. Yeah, you're going to get a lot more come to you instead of you finding it. It's going to come walk up to you and go, hey, it's probably already there watching you.
Yeah, it knows you're there.
And why do people only look down? Look up.
I always look up too.
Up there too.
And it's so funny.
Bless you. It could be up in the trees, right?
Well, exactly. Or in the sky. I'm always looking for lights in the sky, because I think if you see it, and you hear about this too, people that call police stations and they say, oh, I think I saw a Bigfoot, guaranteed in that same time frame, someone's going to call saying that they saw a UFO. If for some reason these things tend to link up at like the same time. So I don't know. I always look up. You've got your Bigfoot hunters who are always looking down because they're looking for prints. And then you got the people that are looking on the sides, because thinking they're being flanked. Maybe there's something off on the sides watching us and following us. I'm always looking up. If I see something up there, there's going to be something out there.
When people are hunting humans, what do? We go up in a tree with a bluff. Yeah. Why don't you think that maybe they're up there down looking at you too, right?
I mean, it's a much better vantage point for sure.
Yeah. I mean, people think, well, they're too big to get up there and do that. Well,
what makes you think? Yeah, why they couldn't just appear up there? You don't think they have that capability?
Well, I think of the woo part of it with the alien versus predator. We had talked about the cloaking, right? Yeah. Maybe they can climb up a tree, like an alien would or something.
I think they absolutely could. I think just because they're big, it doesn't mean that they're not spry.
Right? You never know. I mean, there's just so many different things to think about. So, Jules, if people want to find you and look for your stuff and want to follow you and your new work that you're coming out with, Unite the Woo.
Unify the woo.
Unify the woo.
Let's bring it all together, baby. Unify the woo.
Where can people find you? You want to give some shout outs to your folks listening?
Yep. So I just got the domain name for the website, unifythewoo.com. That's going to be coming out soon. I've got a couple things going on my personal page right now. Once I have a little bit of content and things filmed, then I'm going to start the social media pages. Instagram and TikTok will be the main ones. You can find me on Facebook, just Julia Sims. Look me up if you want to talk about any of this stuff or have any suggestions as to where I should go. And for shout outs, Stevie Strings, of course, Chris D'Angelo, Michael Kirkpatrick, also known as MK Ultra. What's up, buddy? And I guess the good folks over at Hellbent Holler. I really like what they're doing out there. If anyone hasn't seen the documentary that they put out on Small Town Monsters about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Monster on Morris Mountain, it's fantastic. You should check that out. Go to the Small Town Monsters page.
Find that Small Town Monster, is it?
Yeah, it's on the Small Town Monsters page. They did it in sort of collaboration with those guys. But yeah, they were on Morris Mountain in the Uwaris in North Carolina. It's one of the best documentaries I've seen on Bigfoot in a long time.
And for paranormal tourism, now you're in Ohio. Isn't that the Mothman town?
No, that's West Virginia. But I actually
Why did I think it was Ohio?
Well, the Ohio Howl was the Bigfoot Howl was recorded here. But no, I actually, I stopped in between North Carolina and Ohio. I spent the night in Point Pleasant and I went to the Mothman Museum and saw the statue and saw the little memorabilia. That. So I've got a whole episode coming out about Mothman just from that trip. So, but it's really cool over there.
Yeah, I recently watched a show where they had a gentleman on there who wrote, I think it was Brian's show, that, they were talking about Mothman and all the stuff that happened there. It's just kind of mind-blowing. If you haven't seen the movie with Richard Gere, it's worth watching. Mm-hmm. So, shout out to Julia Sims. Everybody follow her, unifythewoo.com. Coming out pretty soon. And we're going to leave you with some Bog Team music. And you're listening in on UPRN, United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 on that Gulf Coast. And listen in to PNL Podcast every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on UPRN. And then we come out again on PNL Podcast at 6 o'clock with another live chat watch party. Now, who do you want to listen to, or what kind of music for Bog Team music do you want to hear on the exit? We got rap, metal, rock. Let's see. I think we even got like folk music.
Let's go with metal.
Yeah. Let's put. How about some 80s metal?
There we go.
There we go. Download it on all streaming platforms. Yeah, if you're on Instagram or TikTok, you can download this there too. I think I might use it for your episode, Jules.
All right.
All right, I'm going to peace out. Thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody follow Julia Sims. Thanks, Jules.
Thank you.